So number 8, we're getting towards the end now, believe it or not. And it's good to see there's quite a few questions there. So Sophie, my fingers are crossed. We might get to 100 today. Number 8 is amalgamations. Now, this one I want to spend a little bit of time on because what the Law Commission said was that the old act had limited restructuring options. So it would, once you were that type of entity, that's the ship you're in. You can't really change. So what they, and there was no provision for amalgamation. So that's like two groups coming together and, joining. So in response to that, the new act does have a simplified version of what's in the Companies Act, providing for amalgamations. And so that should make it easier because before there was nothing, right? And it should make it easier for two societies to potentially say, you know what, we operate in the same area. We are trying to achieve the same goals. It would be much better if we came together and instead of there being two groups, there was one group. Obviously, there's always various politics and history and reasons why there's two groups, but maybe it will actually help to reduce the number of incorporated societies because people will be able to amalgamate. That would be our hope anyway. Now on this one, it's really interesting because we've been having some discussions with MB and just talking to them about the fact that if you look at the 24,000 incorporated societies, right, a large number of them are tiny. They're really, really small. And maybe they would like to amalgamate, but the current legislation doesn't allow it. So what we're going to require is that all these small little groups are going to have to go through the process of adopting new rules, jump through the hurdle of re-registering, and then be able to benefit from the provisions in the new act, which means they can amalgamate. And what we wonder is, would it be possible for the provisions that are applying in the new act to actually take effect earlier? Like, now this is quite serious because anytime you want to change an act, there's a lot involved. And the various inner workings of legislation mean that this may not see the light of day, but it's a practical, basic question. What if we were able to advocate for and achieve a bringing forward of the amalgamation provisions so that it actually applied now, so that the potentially hundreds of incorporated societies who are going to have to re-register and then amalgamate could actually take advantage of the amalgamation provisions right now. In my mind, that makes perfect logical sense. And if everyone listened to Steven, then maybe that would be something that we could get through. But unfortunately, there are always various levels of process to get changes like that. The reason I'm giving you this much background is that we have prepared a short survey, and we will follow up later with a link to that survey. And what we're doing in there is we're asking some questions of people like you who care enough to come on a call like this and hopefully can give us the 1 minute it will take to answer. And what we want to know is, from out there on the ground, what do you think? Like, do you think that would be helpful, or would it not be helpful? Or do you have any other thoughts? Because we would love to be able to go to government, to go to MB and say, well, we actually did a survey. We had X number of people, and this percentage agreed that having earlier amalgamation provisions would be really helpful. So if you're willing to help us, and look at there, Community Networks Aotearoa is happy to publicize the survey. So there we go. Because to effect change, you sometimes have to have some, evidence and data. So if we could say, like, from the survey, 77% of participants thought it would be helpful, maybe, just maybe, in my ideal world, we could actually influence things and change. So that's that one. And I spent a little bit more time, but I think it could be a really interesting thing to do, because if we could get those amalgamation provisions to apply, it would save a lot of time, effort, money. You wouldn't need to talk to as many lawyers, although lawyers are nicer than you think. And, it just makes it just makes sense to me. So let's see where that one goes. Yeah, and I wouldn't be so in favor of this if I hadn't seen last year with the Charities Act. Some of us, Sue Barker and I in particular, had a discussion, and Rose Chalice as well. We were having a call, an impact call, where I gather people together to discuss what's going on in the sector. And we thought, actually, there's not enough time for charities to submit on the changes to the Charities Act. So we wrote to the select committee, we asked for an additional month, and they agreed. And so that was like, oh, you can effect change if you put your hand up and you ask for some amendment to timeframes. So that's why I just wanted to mention that one in more detail. Back over to you, Sophie, number 9.